Well, here's the first step in editing the Sunday video and uploading it to Vimeo so that it can also be embedded in our website. First step is to insert the SD card that was used to record the service from the Hyperdeck in the tech booth. And on that SD card, there's two cards. It happened to record on video 2 this week. So we go in here and I immediately, so there's no confusion about files, I label it. It was June 2. I call it Sunday Original so that we know that this is not the edited video but the original. And then I copy that and I go over to the drive. This is on the studio computer, of course. There's a drive called Worship 2 Video. Make a new folder. I call that by the same name and I call it Sunday AM. And then I copy the file to that folder. It takes a couple of minutes. It says 3. Probably go faster than that. And then we wait. Now that the file is copied over, we're going to open Final Cut Pro and we're going to set up the event and project. Final Cut Pro uses libraries. A library would be perhaps a group of events and projects. Easy to save, backup, move to another computer. Underneath the library, you have events, and events would be the container for a bunch of raw video files. And you could have one or more projects within that event, perhaps different versions of the same video content. So we're going to make a new event. We do that by just clicking anywhere outside of this. Control click or 2-finger click, depending on if you're using a Magic trackpad. We're going to make a new event. That's going to be our Sunday service. And so the way that we've been doing these are just to simply with the date, same thing we labeled the file as, Sunday AM. The actual project will name it something more indicative of the service itself. And you'll see that project show up somewhere. There it is. It automatically has a project in it. That project, in parentheses, we do the date. We do the number of the message. And boy, oh boy, I can't remember what it is. So I'm just going to say, I think it's part 12. If it's in a series and it's a number in a series, we'll do that. And then a dash. And then in quotations, the name of the message, which I do remember. Letters to the church. And the church was Philadelphia. For this particular series, Philadelphia. And I put that title in quotes. Now, really quick, I copy that. I'll tell you why. While you're still in editing mode, hit Control or Command A, copy that to your clipboard. And the reason is when we click on the project, then over here you have a notes field, and I copy that in there so I don't have to post it again. And what I'll do on the end of this file, well, let me go back to the beginning. The way that you'll see when we get to the very end, when we export the video file, we use this information in the description of the video title, and we actually use this. We get rid of the date. We go, as the day draws near, that's the title, and then in parentheses, all the more, that's the name of the series. Then we have the part in it. Then we use these two, I don't even know what you call them. Then in quotations, the title. And then in parentheses, the passage. And it's Revelation 3, and I don't remember the exact verse, so I'm going to go back later and add that. But just imagine, let's say it's 8 to 11, who knows? I'll go back and fix that later. And then a space, then a dash, then a space, and then the person who preached it, which in this case was Jasper. Before I click enter, I hit Command A again and I copy it, because sometimes when I hit enter, like I lose it for some reason. I've had that where it disappears, and that's a lot of typing to do. So this is exactly what's going to be in the description when I finally export the final video. So I like to have this here. I can just copy and paste it, and it saves me a little bit of time. Obviously not super critical, but it's just something that I've found comes in handy. So there it is. Now it's time to import the file. You can either drag and drop it from your folder, or you can use the command import, which is also Command I for import. You're going to navigate to that video drive, but when you go there, it's always going to retain the last place that you did it. And so that was the 26th. So we go back up to Worship 2 video hierarchy. Now we find our new file. There it is. Usually it will default. Well, it may not if you're on a different machine. Since we've already copied this to a hard drive, we don't need to copy this into the Sundays at Summit library. So I'm just going to say leave the file in its place. That's going to stay on that external hard drive. And eventually in a couple of weeks, we'll just delete all of it. We don't need to keep any of it. So yeah, that's the most important thing. We import it. There it is. You immediately want to add it to your timeline. And there's a shortcut. You can just drag it. Or you can click on a portion of it. So anyway, just click on it one time, hit E. That throws it in the timeline. It's quite zoomed out. Use the command, use the shortcut command plus and minus to zoom. So I use command minus to zoom out. I can see the whole service. Command plus to zoom in. First thing we're going to do is trim. We're going to go and trim where the service starts. And there's the start of it. It always ends with this file, the Summit logo. I wait for that because we have our own logo we're going to do.
Good morning, everybody.
Okay, I'm going to make a cut here. I'm going to go Command-Shift-B for the blade tool. That's using the blade tool and cutting all video files, no matter how many are stacked, at the point of the the cursor. I can't think of the actual term right now. So that put a cut there. I can now delete it. The magnetic timeline pushes now the new beginning of the video. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. As I said, I like to kind of edit how much I talk on the beginning because a lot of that is just geared towards the people in the congregation. So let's figure out what I said. Yeah, we don't need any of this on the video. Let's pause here. Okay, we've zeroed in on the best place to start, where I'm actually doing a call to worship and not just the housekeeping stuff. So what we do in the beginning of the videos is we fade in the audio, we fade in the video, and we apply a graphic overlay that gives the title of the service or the date of the service, as well as a lower third name key for me and basically anyone who's in leadership who shares during the service. We give them a lower third just to help new people who are watching our live stream. Gives them a chance to get to know some of the names and personalities. A lot of people will watch our live stream before they ever visit our church in person, and so I love the idea that we can help them begin to put names to faces with the people who are most visual on a typical Sunday morning. So we're going to go to a previous service. In this case, we'll go to May 26th. I'm going to double click on the project. And I'm just going to draw a box around these first two things. You'll see what they are. And I'm going to copy them to my clipboard. And then I'm going to go back. Now, you can either do that by going back to the event and double clicking, or you can use this little arrow key right here that shows that you can go back to the previous project you're working on. And this, so I did. And so I'm with the crosshairs here at the, I still can't think of the name of it. Isn't that hilarious? I'm going to Command V, paste. That's going to put it in on top of the timeline. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to place it right here. Double click on it, and that brings text up, brings a text box. You can technically edit some of the text here, but it can be a little tricky and you can mess things up. So I'm going to do it here. So we're going to change this to June 2, all caps, 10 a.m. The other thing I do is I match this color to whatever the look is of the first song. So we've got kind of a pink and I don't know what color that is, kind of a periwinkle combination. So we're going to find something that fits a little bit better with that than what we currently have from the last week. So we click on this overlay, and we're going to go up here to the text view, and that's where you can adjust this color with this particular overlay that we used. So we're going to click on it. It opens a color wheel, and we can obviously see what we're matching to right here. So let's just see something. It doesn't have to be the same exact color. I think that's actually kind of complimentary. I'm laughing at myself today. This is not the most polished tutorial you'll ever hear, but it'll work. So I said we're going to fade in the video. The command for that is Control V. That opens up the automation lanes, or the keyframe lanes. They're actually called keyframing. So we're going to do a little nice fade in here. So the way that we do that is we hold down the Option key. There's of course menu items to do this, but these are the shortcuts that you want to learn. Option and clicking on there will create a keyframe. I'm going to Option click again. Now I'm going to grab onto that keyframe. I'm going to pull it down, and then I'm going to pull it over to the start. And so now if I click on this line between the 2 points, it will automatically select both keyframes. And you can Control click and open up a mini menu, and it will define for you the type of fade in. And I really like the ease. I love how that looks. Now what happens is that brings the video in, which is awesome. This particular overlay incorporates a fade, a blur, but not a fade in, but it incorporates a blur while the title is viewing, and when the title goes away, the blur comes back to life. And then we have a secondary lower third that introduces the worship pastor, who's the first person that you see. So I still need to fade in the audio. Now, audio and video, I don't know why this is in Final Cut, but if you want to have this type of fade in curve or fade out available to you, you have to draw the points. Both audio and video have these little keys that you can grab onto, and you see how my cursor turns into these horizontal arrows. You can also do a fade in, but you can't adjust the type of fade in. It's just a linear fade in. So since I appreciate using this type, I choose to draw my own fade in. But the audio has the same fade in opportunity, and unlike the video, you can grab it and you can pull it out as long as you want to. And if you click on that little keyframe with the Control click again, open a mini menu, you can do the S curve there. So I don't know why they're like that. So you just have to kind of memorize the fact that it is what it is. Now let's go back and play it and see if we like it. Okay, I feel like that audio fade happened too long, so I'm going to back it up to about where I stopped. And there's a call coming in. Okay, so there's our fade in. I think our fade in's a little long too, so I'm gonna click, because both of these keyframes were selected. I'm gonna only select this one and pull it back. Okay, now the beginning is great. It just so happens that color works. It's already updated from the last week. So one thing you would do, and I'm not going to do it in this video, but you would just review the service, and you'd say, hey, were there any like awkward moments where, you know, that we need to edit down or anything like that? Was there a mistake or a transition that took too long, or was there a late mic cue where you don't on the video even hear the mic and you see the person talking? Sometimes it's possible to cut those out and you don't notice. Other times you just got to own it because there's no way to fix it. So let's assume that you're going to use your blade tool, which is B. You can hold it down just to use it temporarily, or you can double tap it to make it live all the time. Or you can put the crosshairs here and use the Command Shift B to cut everything to do your edits. But we're not going to do that in this video. Okay, so we're going to go back now to the previous service again, and because we've been there once, we can use this button to go back to that project. And what we're going to do is we're going to copy. I'm going to go through and I'm going to just drag and pull. And I'm going to copy all of the lower thirds that happen in the service, and I'm going to go all the way to the end of the service to try to get as many as there were. That takes us all the way through the end of the message. So now they'll all be selected as I let go. I'm going to hit Command C to copy. I'm going to go back to my project. I'm going to go to the first place that we use the next lower third, and that's going to be the Summit Update. So I'm going to use the Command minus and plus to zoom out or zoom in. I'm zooming out in this case. I can just drag the playhead and see, or I can look at the thumbnail to see when Summit Update happens. There's Todd. So I'll play that transition, and I'll hit, as I see him coming, I'm hitting Command V, because it takes a second too. So when he's stepping on stage, I can stop, or I can start it. Now obviously I have the wrong name because that's from last week. So we're going to go in here and we're going to change it. It's all caps to Todd. And when it's summon update, no matter who the person is, we just say summon update. Now there's another, you have an option. You can do it again if you want. I've started to do that lately. So let's just click Command C, copy. We do the greeting time. I thought about cutting these out, but again, if you're a new person trying to get the vibe of our church, seeing people welcome each other, seeing this pan out, it's the most you ever see the crowd, I will leave it in and let people see it and get a flavor for who we are. So then as he brings it back, I copy that lower third again. There we go.
All right, go ahead and have a seat.
That color kind of works with what's going on. Let's check the other one. Yeah, it works. No need to change it. So we do it again. I'm going to zoom out. Now the next place that a lower third is going to happen is usually the message. Oh, but we had this special element. Okay, so we don't need another lower third for that. So we're going to go, and the sermon's probably going to be the next. The next place is going to be the message. So I'm going to copy this and use the Command X. That's cut, which means I'm going to delete it, but also copy to the clipboard. And then we're going to go into where the message starts. Same kind of thing. I think I'll do it twice now. Here comes Jasper.
Let's pray.
Now, I don't like the placement of that lower third because it's right on top of him. So first of all, let's correct the name. This is Jasper Sweeney. I just use Summit Elder for anyone who preaches if they're an elder. If it were someone like me or Sam who's not an elder, you know, it would say maybe our job titles instead. So we have that. Let's make the color something that we want. I think we have kind of a red and blue, no, an orange and blue thing. So that actually works. But I don't like the placement of it. So I'm going to click on it one time, and I'm going to use the Transform tool. That creates a highlighted box around it that I can manipulate. It's not really Asper Sweeney. It's just that we're in the middle of that unfolding, so pay no attention to that. And I'm going to do it here. But watch it, because sometimes the way they can look comical if you do them wrong. So let's see how that works. Yep, that's perfect. That disappears. So I'm going to copy that, and we're going to do it again for when the prayer ends. So he's praying. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. You can also just run the playhead. You can hold down on it and just drag. And here's where he ends. And let's add it again. Oh, I'm going to get rid of whatever was there because we're going to use this new one.
All right, children.
Here we go. Now, I think this would actually look better on the other side this time. So we're going to do that. And I'm going to go right there to use the stage as a little bit of a frame. Again, play it and make sure it doesn't do anything weird in terms of the way it appears and disappears.
Enjoy your time at
Perfect. And that color, yeah, that color works pretty good. Actually, let's just change it up just to make sure you know how to do it. We click on it. We go to the title manipulation screen. We open up our color wheel. You can drag around. You can use a pre-selected color. Let's use a warm-ish color, but I'm going to drag it to be a little bit more of the color back here. That works. We'll leave it at that. Okay, so now we zoom in again. We have the whole message, and unless somebody different comes up at the end, which I don't think they do at this particular service, I did the close after the last song. Yep, so there's no need for any more lower thirds. So that concludes the lower third portion of it. Now let's find the end of the service and do a fade out for audio and video for this next step. So we zoom out so we can see a good healthy amount. The band typically plays. You can see where the audio, if you hit stop, it'll redraw the waveform. You can see that we fade out about there, so let's go there. There's the end, and we're going to cut it before it goes to the next video. So I'm going to use my left and right arrow keys to move the playhead a little bit. How about there? I'm going to use Command-Shift-B to cut all. I'm going to click and delete the end that we don't need. And now I'm going to draw my audio fade out. And I'm going to try that just to see if I like it or not. I'm going to hover over it until I see the cursor turn to that horizontal view. 2-finger click on the magic trackpad or control click. S-curve. Let's listen to it, see if we like it. That's a really nice, long, smooth fade. Awesome. So now let's do a video fade. Control V opens up the animation properties or the keyframing properties. I'm going to do the same thing, but if you remember, we have to add the keyframes manually. So I'm going to option click. I'm going to option click right next to it. Here's a little trick. You can option click them anywhere. Click on them and drag them. So I'm going to drag that to the end and actually down. Drag it down first and then drag it over. And then I'm going to click on the line. I'm going to apply the control click to get this menu. Use the ease command. Let's try it. And usually you can start them fading about the same time. You can play with it, just whatever looks good to you. And there we go. The next step in the Sunday service video would be to apply any audio effects. And the reason I say that is I actually am going to probably do a little bit of cutting and trimming some of the transitions in here. That's going to change from week to week. You have the tools to do it. I'm not going to use this services example as what you would do, but what I would say is before you start trimming up video, it's really smart to get any audio plugins on, because then when you trim the video, each of those, if you trim 1 and 2, well, both of those 2 will now still have that information. If you wait until the end to do that, you have to manually add that plugin to every single video clip that you've trimmed up. So get it done off the top. I'm going to tell you what I typically do on a week, and trust that if you're doing this, you have your own ability to choose plugins and deal with the service that you've been handed. But let me show you what I would do on this service. I'm going to give a second to just listen and hear what I hear. Now I've inherited a really good mix with this one. I don't notice anything from an EQ standpoint that sounds bad. Sometimes it'll be bass issues or low mid issues or high mid issues. That any of those can happen depending on the live stream mix that we've inherited. This one sounds pretty good, so I'm not going to worry about EQ, but I do add some compression to every service, and what that does is it takes the highest parts of the service and turns them down a little bit so that the dynamic range, which is the distance from the softest parts of the service to the loudest parts of the service, that distance is not so far, which means then that you can raise the volume of that total dynamic range up to the loudest you're able to have in the video file without it distorting. That translates into when you're watching it on your computer at home, when the soft moments come, you find yourself turning up the volume to hear, and then when the loud parts come, you're having to turn it back down. We don't want people to have to do that. We want it just to be a much easier listening experience, and that means a much lesser dynamic range, less distance from loud to soft. And so that's what we're going to do with the compressor. So we click on the file that we want to add a plugin to. We come over here to our actual we come in here to our actual plugin library, which is right here. I'm hovering over it. Show or hide the effects browser. So that's the effects browser. We're going to open that up, and you can look at video. You can look at everything. These are everything from video plugins to audio plugins. You can go to audio and search all the audio ones. But I'll tell you right now, under audio, what I use is it's an emulation of the infamous Uri 1176 compressor. So if you just type in 76, it's going to bring it up. This one's the CLA 76, which is the Chris Lord-Alge. He's a famous producer, and he's basically created a model of this vintage compressor. We're doing true stereo audio, so we want the S version, the stereo version. And so I just grab on it and I throw it right on top of the file. Now I can hide that effects browser. If I click on this file and then I navigate over here to the audio tab, you can come down and you can see, hey, there it is. And to manipulate that, I click on this little guy right here. I don't know, like probably properties. Advanced Effect Editor is what they call that. So now there's the compressor, and I'm going to show you a little bit how I use it. So I'm going to go to a loud part in the song. So right now we're seeing the gain reduction. You can make the meters be the input, the output, you can turn it off. but I usually leave it in gain reduction mode to see what's going on. And the way this compressor works, I'm gonna pause for a second. The way this compressor works is different than some compressors. You have kind of a fixed threshold. Well, that's not true. I shouldn't say that. You have ratio selections that you can choose. I think for this kind of thing, because the live stream mix has already been mixed with compression, so we're going to consider this more of a limiter. So we're going to do a pretty steep ratio of like 12:1. And basically how much signal that we let into this compressor that's already going to behave depending on how we set the attack and release. I'm going to turn those, with this compressor, the higher number is actually less. So that's a very fast attack. This is a very fast release. 12:1, we're going to leave output the way it is right now. We're going to play the file and raise the input until we see some compression starting to happen. And I probably don't want to do any more than 3 dB of compression, or you're going to start to really notice it and it's going to sound squashy. So let's do that. Let's turn the input down. Let's go ahead and play a part that we know is, pretty good amount. You obviously don't hear it because we're not letting any signal through the compressor. As we raise this, we'll start to hear it. Oh, I muted this accidentally by hitting the V. The V will mute the video. Okay, I'm raising the input. There's no compression going on yet. Now you begin to see the needle dip. That's how much subtraction or attenuation would be the right word. I'm starting to just barely hear it, so I'm going to be happy with those couple of dB. They're going to allow me to turn the mix up louder. See how much headroom we have right here? There's 0. We're not even close to it. We got about 6 dB of headroom. So I'm going to add 6 dB of output, which takes us up to 12. Now this compressor is going to knock down some of the peaks that would cause us to spike over. So now look at the meters. We're sitting pretty nice around 0. I'm happy with that. If we turn it off, we can disable the compressor. That's how much gain that we've done just by doing this simple little trick. Compressors, there's a lot to say about them. I can't get into that in this video, but the attack time says how quickly will the compressor react when signal hits it, and how quickly will it let go of the attenuation that it's doing. Look it up sometime. Compressors are fascinating. The only other thing that I recommend doing, turning it back on and using the mix button. I mix it down to about 70 or 80%. Let's say 80%. The reason I'm doing that, that's the mix. It's going to say, okay, here's the fully compressed signal, but we can let some of the unaffected signal back in, and I find that it just opens things up and makes it sound good. So I've letting some of the original uncompressed signal through. Let's see what it does to the meters.
Imagine the things that he's going to do in this place today.
Let's go back to where we were. Now it looks like I'm distorting a little bit on the input, probably on the output, yeah. So it gave me a little warning that you're hitting a little hard. And that's because we're letting a little more come through so I'm going to raise this back up and say maybe only let like 10% of the original signal come in.
Come on, people of God, testify to the world.
Okay, I like that. So there we go. So now you've added a compressor. If we needed some EQ, we could have added some EQ. I usually would do that before the compressor so that the EQ isn't introducing more volume changes. So yeah, we got a pretty sweet audio thing. All that's left to do would be maybe to trim up and crossfade the files, and then the next portion of this will be uploading the video to Vimeo and ultimately our website. Well, we're in the final phase of editing in Final Cut Pro, and so we've added all of our edits. I did do a couple of edits in here, and we've our fade in, fade out, our lower thirds. We did some compression. I actually got into the last section of worship, and I found that the bass was quite would sometimes really jump out of the mix, and so I threw in one of my favorite EQs this Pro Q3. And what I love about it is you could either just attenuate the frequencies in a particular range. In this case, things around 80 hertz were really boomy in the bass, and so, but I didn't want to just notch out 80 hertz for parts of the service where the bass wasn't overbearing, so I used dynamic compression, and I added a compressor here that basically says when it crosses a certain threshold, it's going to pull down as much as about 6 dB of reduction. And so that means that when the bass isn't loud in the mix, it's just full, and when it gets too loud in the mix, it grabs just that frequency range. So that's the thing I love about this plugin. So I did apply that to the second half of the worship set, where the bass sometimes got a little overbearing in the mix. So everything's been done now. And so usually I'll really quick just drop the needle and hit a couple of places in the service to make sure everything's good. But I trust that it is. I'm going to use the function Command A to select everything in the timeline. And then I'm going to go up to the upper right corner to the share button, and we're going to export the file. This is just going to simply export the file and save it to the desktop. So we double check the title. And this is, do you remember where we need this description? Well, so now I'm going to click on the project. That's going to open project properties. Here's my text, Command A, Command C to copy. Now I'm going to go back here, Command A to select everything. I'm going to go back to my share command or export command, export file. Now in here, I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to copy in our information. And then I will, and let me show you one of the things in the settings. You want to make sure video and audio are chosen. You want to make sure that the video codec H.264 compression, that's going to create an MP4 file, and that's a compressed file, so it will be much smaller than the 16 gigabyte file that was the original video. This video will end up being like 6 or 7 gig, and then you'll see there's another step where we knock it down smaller in another program called Handbrake. So you want to make sure those two look like that. We're good. It's confirming to the desktop. You're just going to use the default title, which is the project name, and save. And now you'll notice that will, if you click on this button up here in Final Cut, the background tasks, it will show you what it's doing and how long it will move. This will probably take half an hour to share. So you just do something else while you're waiting on this, and the next segment will show you what to do once that file is prepared. Okay, time has passed, and Final Cut has successfully exported the video. It automatically opens up with QuickTime on my machine, and it's a .mov file that's about 14.17 gigabytes. So that's still a large file. We can upload it to Vimeo, but we only get 20 gig a week as our subscription. So if we wanted to do 2 services in 1 week or some promo videos, we could eat that bandwidth up really quick. And so we're going to knock this file down with a program called Handbrake, which is really good at getting it down into the neighborhood of like 2 gig, which is at seemingly no quality loss. So what we're going to do is get rid of that. Actually, it's smart to kind of do a quick preview with the file and just make sure to fade in, make sure things sound good as you kind of go through, nothing weird. The end is good. Okay, we do all that. So now you can do this a couple of ways. The easiest is to control-click the file and open with Handbrake. And that will bring up this view. And if you're using my machine, you can use a preset for 1080p. The important thing is you want to make sure that it just keeps all of the settings. It encodes it to an H.264 file, and it also keeps it at a 1920 by 1080 screen aspect ratio, which I know it does with this. Sometimes it will just randomly pick another aspect ratio. I don't know why that is, so I created a preset that I knew I can trust on. It's going to save the MP4 file to the desktop, and so we're going to go ahead and hit start, and it will run for 20 or 30 again, and when it's done, we will then upload it to Vimeo. Okay, Handbrake has finished its work, and we see an MP4 file, and look at the difference in size. The .mov file is 14.7. The MP4 is now 2.3 gig. So that's awesome. So we're going to open up a window to bring in Vimeo. Sorry, I'm working on the other screen here. Here we go. And if you are doing, if you're working on this for me, then I've sent you the links and the credentials to get into Vimeo. So here we go. We're going to bring the video from the desktop now, the exported one. I'm going to drop that into the library. It's going to do its thing for a very short amount of time, and then I'll show you how to just tweak the information in the file and then embed it into the website. Okay, the video has uploaded to Vimeo at least enough where the uploading process is done, and now it's just transcoding. But the great thing about that is you can begin to edit the entry. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to edit the entry. We're going to give a title graphic that will match what you see in some of the previous messages from the same series. I see that we had the wrong number, so we're going to make that correction. And if you remember earlier in the video, we weren't exactly sure of the scripture, but I now know what that was. So let's make all those corrections right now. So we're going to click on the file, and again, it will let us edit even while it's still encoding. So this is the format. We want the title, we want the number in the series, which is actually 13, and it's somehow dropped the quotes. I don't know why it does it every time. Letters and any of the punctuation. So we put the colon back in. Here we go. So now we need that same information that we added in Final Cut. And in some previous versions of this program, it would carry that over, which is why we did it. And now I'm realizing it doesn't matter because it doesn't. But we're going to go back to that file and just copy it so that we don't have to re-add it. So here we are. There we go. Cut it to the clipboard. We're quitting out of Final Cut. I'm going to paste that in here. There we go. We have to change the number, and we now know. I now know that the scripture is actually 13 to 17 was the passage. Everything else is correct. June 2, and so now we need a thumbnail. That's the image. That is what you see when the video is embedded. So we're going to upload that. Now, if you're doing this for me, you've got access to this file. So this is the file that we designed for the series. It's the ping file. For the title slide, it's the same slide that you see on the beginning of the ProPresenter, message notes in the service. So we're going to click on that. We're going to assign that. I'm just going to go down through some of these things really quick. There's not much that we have to change in here. I think in general, we disable comments because we're just hosting it. We're not really interacting with people about this. So we have the information in here. Now we're going to do a couple of things. One, we're going to change the privacy of it. It defaults as private. We're going to now make it public, which is the first stage of embedding it to the places that we embed it. Under the Publish menu, we're going to publish it to our channel, which is Summit Church. And we're also going to publish it to our collection. That's like the series. They call that a showcase. And there it is, as the day. And the showcase is what is on our website, so that when we automatically add this to the showcase, it's automatically going to show up on our website. And I'll show you how that is. Let's go to the site. Let's go to the watch. That's where all of our media is. And we have added this series under a current message series. I don't know why it's not loading. That's convenient timing. There we go. Just reloaded the page. And what we've done is we've embedded the code, which is of the showcase. So anytime we add something to the showcase, it's automatically going to add it. And there's our June 2nd service. And that's how people can watch messages from the current series. So that just is something that you want to do to make sure that you see it once you add it there. So it's in the collection, it's public, it's on the channel. The channel would be another link you could show people to just see every single video in chronological order that we've ever uploaded, which is there's hundreds and hundreds of them over the years. So that's all taken care of, and it automatically saves as you go. So there's only one more remaining thing to do, and that's to get the embed code. And we're going to insist that that embed code produces a full 1080 video. And so we're going to copy that embed code. And the only other place we'd like to embed it is on our live stream on demand page. And so again, if you're doing this for me, you'll have these credentials. We're going to go to Church Online. That is our live stream page. And immediately after a Sunday service, they just go ahead and turn around the live stream and make it on demand. But it's still unedited. It's kind of, there's not smooth fade-ins and fades-outs. Once we get this done, we like to go in here and log in. So again, you'll have the credentials to do that. That's the viewer of a host. We're going to go to the admin viewer where it gives us more tools, and we're going to go to setup, and we're going to go to offline setup, and that basically says what are people going to see when they go to the live stream page after the live stream is done. And on Sunday mornings, the live stream, the video producer will go to our encoding site that does the live stream, and they will edit the in and out points of that video, and they will copy and paste that embed code in here so that people after service can immediately see an instant replay of the live stream basically. But knowing that it's very simplistic, as soon as we've edited this nice version of the video with the lower thirds, we're going to go in here and copy that. So we're just going to Command All to highlight it all, and then we're going to paste right over it, and we're going to save. And I've learned the hard way to wait for that to happen before you go to the page. Now you can go up here and you can go back to the host tools, and that will show you, and there it is. There is, and you can also verify that on the website by going to the watch page again. And of course we have the edited version in here, but if we hit watch live or on demand, that's going to bring us right to that screen we were just in. Now we're logged in, so if I log out, this is what the common person would see. And they're going to see the service, and then they're also going to see the upcoming service times that are coming up. So now we have the really nice version of the video on for anyone watching on demand.
He's going to do in this place.
And that's our version. So completely taking through the process of copying the original files, editing them, encoding them, transcoding them to make them smaller, uploading them to Vimeo, and then embedding the code that Vimeo provides to make sure that in both locations on the website you're seeing the most recent video. And I like to do that on Monday if possible, or Tuesday, depending on when I'm in to work, so that pretty soon in the week people can see it. That's it.